No.
Danny Savalos outside the courthouse there. Danny, thank you. The aforementioned Michael Avenatti, Stormy Daniels' attorney. He was in that courtroom a short time ago. He is here in our studio now. Let's just get your take, first of all, to what Danny just mentioned there, this decision from the judge regarding your standing in this case.
Well, the judge has yet to make a decision on the motion. It's being held in abeyance, basically being side-tabled, if you will, until the appropriate time when our motion to intervene is heard. In fact, within the last hour, we withdrew the motion, my motion for admission pro hoc vice, because it's unnecessary at this time in light of the court's comments relating to our motion to intervene. That may also be unnecessary. But let me tell you the bombshell that happened in court today.
The tapes.
The tapes. Now, you know, we had Nixon tapes years ago, and now we have Trump tapes. Mr. Cohen's attorney was forced to admit, as a result of our efforts relating to bringing these tapes to light, he was forced to admit in open court today that Michael Cohen was making recordings of various parties, and those recordings, not only do they exist, but they're being kept under lock and key. He was forced to admit that some of them relate to my client, which is of huge concern to us. And our position is very clear, as outlined in my comments after court in front of the courthouse. These tapes should be released in full to the American people and the Congress so that people can judge them for themselves and decide what appropriate action to take.
What's the public interest in having those tapes released?
Well, these tapes relate directly to the conduct of the president's attorney, his right-hand attorney, relate directly to issues concerning my client. Attorney-client privileged communications, evidently, that were disclosed to Mr. Cohen improperly by her prior counsel. And also, we have every reason to believe that the tapes include communications between Mr. Trump and Mr. Cohen that don't have anything to do with the rendering of legal advice. So those are not privileged communications.
You know what's on the tapes.
Well, I'm not going to get into what I know or what I don't know. Here's what I know. This is a bombshell, and the importance of this cannot be overstated. Now, why Michael Cohen was recording these things is anybody's guess, but it wasn't very smart. But we now know that they exist. There's an admission in court that they exist, and they should be released.
The president's voice is on the tapes.
That's our understanding.
And your client's voice is on the tapes.
My client's voice is not on the tapes, to the best of our knowledge. My client's attorney's voice is on the tapes, describing communications that he had with my client, which he should have never been disclosing because that was privileged information. This whole thing appears to stink.
Judge Wood also said today that if you were to be admitted to the court, that you would have to abide by this code of conduct, meaning that you would probably not be able to do a lot of this. Is that one of the reasons that you withdrew your motion?
Well, that's not exactly what she said. What she said was that I would have to be more careful in my appearances and my media appearances relating to this case. We understood that going in. That had nothing to do with why we withdrew the motion. We withdrew the motion because it doesn't make any sense to have it sitting out there in abeyance when it's really not necessary, especially in light of the court's comments.
I want to go back to these tapes because, again, the assertion that these are akin to the Watergate tapes, you recognize that's a pretty startling assertion to a lot of folks who might be listening or watching.
I understand that, but let's release the tapes. There's audio recordings between Mr. Cohen and others. We have every reason to believe that it includes Mr. Trump. We have every reason to believe they're doing everything they can to cover it up. There's audio recordings that occurred relating to attorney-client privilege communications concerning my client. It's outrageous that that ever occurred. This entire thing, the more we dig, the worse that it gets. We still don't have all the bank records for essential consultants having been released relating to what Michael Cohen was doing as it relates to that entity, what money he was taking, what foreign interests were involved, where the money went, whether any of it went to Mr. Trump, etc. The questions just keep piling up. They need to start providing answers. This is a very serious matter. We're talking about the President of the United States, and we're talking about what appears to be a considerable conspiracy and cover-up.
A conspiracy and cover-up involving whom?
involving Michael Cohen, involving Mr. Trump, and perhaps others relating to these payments and where the money went. And look, all of this information is available. We know that. We know it as it relates to the admissions that were made in court by Michael Cohen's attorney. They should release the information. If there's nothing nefarious about this, they should just come clean and provide the information. We know that this is dirty. We know it's ugly, and it's getting more ugly by the day.
You know that?
I certainly know that, and I think that people with common sense, and there's a lot of American people that have a lot of common sense, you don't have to look very far to figure this out.
You know that because you know what's on the tapes.
Well, again, I've already answered that question. I'm not going to get into details.
You haven't answered the question.
You
danced around the question, as only Michael Avenatti can do, but I think we've got a pretty good sense that you've got a decent idea of what's on the tapes. Sometimes when I listen to you and I read you, I do get the impression that you know a lot more than you let on, and that you're waiting for the rest of us to catch up.
No, it's not a question of waiting for people to catch up. It's a question of, you know, we have a strategy relating to this case and relating to representing my client and what needs to be released and when, and we need to follow that. We also don't have complete information at times, and so we're not in a position to release what information that we have, because we need to verify what we told, and we have to do our job in that regard. But I think if you look at our record over the last 2.5 months, we've been very, very accurate in what we've predicted, and we haven't danced around a lot of questions. We've made a lot of appearances, and we've answered a lot of questions, far more than Michael Cohen and his attorneys.
Did you leak Cohen's financial records?
We provided the summary report, and we stand behind the veracity of those statements. We didn't do anything improper or illegal in that regard, and to the best of our knowledge, we're not under any investigation for anything we've done.
All right. Michael Avenatti.
Good to see you, sir.
Always good to see you. Thanks.
Thank
Open
you.
invitation. Thank you. Just really quickly, before we go to the tease, this is something that I wanted to ask you that I feel may have gotten lost in some of this. Your client, how's she doing?
She's doing great. I mean, we communicate on a regular basis, certainly every day, many times a day, on a whole host of issues. She's doing very, very well. She's very pleased on how things are going. Okay. She feels more and more vindicated with each passing day.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there.
Thank you.